I first joined the military in 1979 as a reservist when I was in high school. When I finished high school, the natural progression for me was to join the regular force. I have a older sister and brother who were in the military, and I was just anxious to serve. The excitement of serving the country, traveling, seeing new places was super attractive to me, and something I always knew I kind of would do based on having older siblings that really enjoyed their career in the military. I love the military. I love the discipline. I like the energy, the camaraderie. There wasn't anything I didn't like about the military. Um, and not knowing what was next, where you're posted, it was very exciting. Well, I think on my first posting, I went to a ship on the West Coast. And as a clerk, I worked for what was called the coxswain, so the non-commissioned senior non-commissioned member in the Navy that was in charge of discipline, administration, overseeing all those things. And I was like his right hand man, the coxswain's writer. So a lot of things I was privy to see, a lot of secret documents, that came on board. I would log them in, and so I was privy to a lot of um, things that were distressing to me very early on. At that time, a lot of the things that I was logging in and reading were military police reports that were targeting gay men because women weren't in ships then, and also sending people to the release center, um, packaging up their documents and stuff on the base from the ship to be released dishonorably. It scared me a lot because I knew that my life was going to be closeted, and that's the way it was, and that's the way it was um, pretty much everywhere, federal government, RCMP, the military. But in the military, I was privy to read and understand um, a lot more about the repercussions of being found out. I was posted to the UK. That was my third posting. After the ship, I went to National Defence Headquarters in Ottawa. Then I went to Canadian Defence Liaison Staff in London, England. And I was doing very well in the military to be awarded that posting. And a young person came out to me worried about what would happen to them because they weren't willing to stay in the military, and so confided in me. And at that point, I had said, yes, I have those concerns too, but I'm not seeking release. And so this person left the military, went back to Canada to be released, and I stayed. So it was my time of the year to sign my evaluation, which was very, very good. I took a lot of pride in my work. And I signed my evaluation, and then my sergeant left, and I was with the captain. And the captain said, look, Danny, you're a smart clerk. I can't protect you anymore. If you don't want a 5F, then have a 4C on my desk in the morning. So a 5F release was dishonorable discharge, which was called the sexual deviant. And a 4C was voluntarily release. So I was basically given the option to either release or be released. And at that time, I wasn't out to family. I wasn't out to really anyone. And when you were dishonorably released, you lost your security clearance. There was no future with the federal government. There was shame, and you just kind of disappeared from the Canadian Forces. The next morning, I had my 4C voluntary release prepared, and I sent up through my chain of command saying that I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to return to Canada, go back to school, and that the Canadian Armed Forces wasn't for me anymore. I'm originally from Nova Scotia, so I released in Ottawa, and I went as far away to go to university to Vancouver, to Simon Fraser University, as far away as I could to come out. And so I had a lot of successful years. I went to university, and then I pursued all kinds of different careers that I found satisfying. And yeah, so I just went completely in another direction. Well, I taught fitness classes for about 35 years. So I was in, people would always say to me, I had a loud voice. I could very much direct the class, very much like the military. And people would come up to me and say, it's obvious you were in the military. And then at one point, there was a captain in Scotia Square Mall that came to me and said, why don't you think about re-enrolling? And I said, no, I don't think that would be healthy for me. And he said, no, it's changed. It's a different military now. And so I thought about it. A few years later, I thought, well, let's see. Then I got a job actually on the military base at CFP Shearwater. And I was working at the medical clinic, and I realized these privates and officer cadets, they're not young. Like, they're joining at a later age. So I thought, why not? Like, I love the military. Why not go back? Why not continue with my career where I left off? And excitedly, I re-enrolled in the military. Well, as postings went on, the next posting I was posted, and again, the military policeman that was posted there was a great guy. He came to me and said, listen, there's someone you need to be aware of. And this was Sydney Garrison, Cape Breton. So it was like not the most open place maybe in Canada, but it was where I'm originally from. And they gave me that posting because my family was living there. And so that was great. But for the most part, it wasn't a problem. But hearing that now on the second posting, kind of baffled me because I wear rose-colored glasses. I'm happy to be back in the military. I'm happy to help people on a daily basis. And it baffled me and brought up a lot of bad memories, for sure. But then after that posting, I got posted to Ottawa. And Ottawa was a good experience. But people would always say, what's your story? Why'd you get out? And so I would always answer. And people would either be, most people were like, wow, that's crazy that ever happened. But then there were other people that would be not really willing to work with me. And then I got posted to Kingston. And then that's when things came falling down. The LGBT Purge I found out about, which I joined the class action suit. And that ripped off a Band-Aid for me at that time. And so I was struggling with anxiety, depression, addiction, and just all around really troubled because of this Band-Aid being ripped off. It also brought up that while I was in my first post in the Navy, there was sexual abuse. And so that reared its ugly head and came to the forefront. I did feel very surrounded, but that Band-Aid was ripped off. And that was, now I'm in a downward spiral, struggling. And so I went to the medical officer and they said, look, I'm having some issues. So they sent me to a therapist at the military college, and he diagnosed me with a form of PTSD, specific trauma and stressor related disorder. And so the struggles continued. And I fell through the cracks, so there was nothing done about it. There was no follow-up until I started to really unravel. Finally, I was diagnosed, and I was sent up for a 3B medical release. But that takes time. It takes a lot of time, like up to a year. So I still struggled in my occupation and at my desk every day, and just, yeah, constantly being told that my work wasn't good enough. I would say my I was on medication, and like my meds don't allow me to concentrate like I used to. And I would just be reprimanded and written up. And this was happening a lot. And this is the last year of my service. I got called to the medical doctor, who's this ex-military, and she said, "Danny, I got good news for you. Finally, you're finally getting out of here." And she was very, very cool lady. And but it was hard. Like it was, I kept on asking, and then I would just suck it up like you always do, right? Like and so finally I did get released, and it was liberating. It was super liberating. Well, for a long time, I didn't think my story was really that important. I thought just like anybody else. Um, and then I realized after watching other stories and talking to people that were part of the LGBT Purge over the last 4 years since I retired that it felt like I should, and I really wanted to step up and say, hey, here's my story too. So, me too. And so it's not just about me and the military, it's about the federal government, the RCMP officers, and just being reminded of that is just, it's liberating. It's so great to know that so many people are standing up and saying, hey, this is my story, and to have a chance to share mine is pretty amazing.